What is going on, everybody? Welcome to That Franchise Guy, and this is the Week 12 update show talking about the biggest risers and fallers in my real 2018 roster available on Xbox One. Just one quick announcement before we dive into it here. I am looking to fill a few spots in the 32-man subscriber league, and yes, I am going to keep making some content for that. Again, you can follow the games on Twitch every week, but if you are interested in joining that league, do hit me up on Twitter. The DMs are open, so we can engage in some conversation there. So let's get into the roster here. Now, we don't have a dud of the week, no one that I really felt was so bad I had to single out here, but we do have a star of the week, and it is again Alvin Kamara, who is basically taking the league by storm on a fast track to the Rookie of the Year award, and is a huge reason this Saints team has been so successful. Now, they did lose last week, but Kamara was incredible. If you watch that game, just a highlight almost every time he touched the football. 3 or 4 truly some of the best plays of the year just from Kamara in that game. So Kamara goes up +3 this week, and then again, no dud of the week. But let's get into all the other risers this week. We got some pretty decent names this week, starting with the Vikings. Case Keenum hasn't really been touched yet, but he is playing very well. I've always liked Case's game. He's just limited by his physical tools, but really elusive in the pocket, usually has a good idea of where he needs to go with the football. They have been really killing it with play action, even when the running game's not going well. So Case Keenum goes up +2 this week. And then also for the Vikings defensive end, Everson Griffin, just going up 1 this week. I haven't really had to move him because I had already raised him a ton to start the year. I love Everson Griffin. He is really the centerpiece of that defense that is still incredibly good despite all the attention the offense is getting. But when Everson Griffin is on, this Vikings team is pretty unbeatable. And, you know, I've seen top 10 pass rushers list, edge rushers list that don't have Everson Griffin's name on it. And to those people, you really need to recheck that, because in my mind, Griffin is the 3rd best edge rusher in the league behind Miller and Mack, and I don't think it's much of a competition. He is really the only other guy that offers a speed and power combination that can set up all kinds of moves, and is really just almost an impossible guy to defend as a offensive lineman. So let's move on here. Coming out of that same game, the Lions receiver Marvin Jones has been really impressive over the last 3 or 4 weeks. So he goes up +2, and he had kind of been the signature wide receiver too, but he's really shown a little more than that. Some of the catches he's making have been very impressive, superstar type of catches. So you'll see his catching ratings go way up this week. So he goes up +2. And then for the Chargers, quickly emerging as one of my favorite players in the league, Desmond King goes up +1. Absolutely dominant nickel corner already as a rookie. Probably never going to be too much more than that, just because he's a little slower and he's 5'10", but just such an instinctive guy, and I keep raising him almost every week, it feels like. And then for the Chiefs, Reggie Ragland, who went up last week, was really noticeable this week, especially in run defense. I know the Chiefs are struggling, and they're going to have some fallers that we'll get to in a second, but Reggie Ragland starting to emerge as a guy who should be starting as a middle linebacker in this league, a guy that a lot of people had pretty high expectations for, who has, until now, really not put it together. And then a guy for the Jets that I barely knew who he was, had to kind of look into him, but a guy that has been kind of earning more reps as the season's gone on as a pass rusher, Josh Martin. He goes up +3 this week, just kind of a guy to keep your eye on if you ever do end up actually watching a Jets game. And then for the Jets, also going up, Robbie Anderson. Now, I haven't really talked about Robbie Anderson this year, and I was actually a little higher on him going into the year. I think he does have a ton of talent. I think this is pretty legit. I don't know if he's ever going to be a superstar receiver, but he goes up +2 this week. And he's a guy that if he did get a quarterback, he is only in his 2nd year, maybe he would emerge as a top 20 wide receiver. Not anywhere near that yet, but definitely trending upwards. For the Eagles, we've got Michael Kendricks going up just +1 this week. Now, he's been really dominant as almost like a nickel corner. And also a strong safety, a linebacker, just a guy they're going to move all over the field. He's sort of the Eagles version of Anthony Barr in Minnesota. And then another one of my favorite players in the league is Dion Lewis. And a lot of people had noticed that I didn't really lower Lewis early on in the year despite serious injury concerns, which are still there for Lewis. But I love Dion Lewis's game. I think he is the most talented running back in New England, and I've thought that going back to this preseason, and he really has claimed that job, especially from Mike Gillislee as the starting running back in New England. Hopefully he can stay healthy, but man, he is so shifty, really good vision, and at times will show some power as well. For the Saints, we got Ryan Ramczyk going up, and that trade with New England is starting to look like a win for the Saints. Not that Brandon Cooks has been bad necessarily for the Patriots, or that is even a loss for the Patriots, but with the lack of tackle talent in the NFL, Ryan Ramczyk is definitely one of the more valuable rookies in the entire class. He is basically the only rookie tackle that has been good, let alone startable, and Ryan Ramczyk has been very good. He is starting at right tackle, but Armstead is going to be hurt this week. The Saints are set up real nicely for the future, though, with these two guys pretty young. And then our next guy, perhaps a little oversight, hadn't raised Todd Gurley yet. Now, I had raised him a ton to start the year. He started the year as like an 83, I think, in the original roster. We all knew Todd Gurley had this talent, finally getting the opportunity. I had never really even thought to raise him because I knew I had him basically as a guy that you're going to use and just love playing with him. But he goes up +2. The awareness and ball carrier vision go up a little bit. So this puts him right there in the top running backs, still behind Bell, David Johnson, and McCoy, but now tied with Zeke Elliott and Devonta Freeman. And then a few guys in Arizona, some not so well-known names here. Ricky Seals-Jones has started to get reps. Now, I'm not going to do anything crazy here. He was a 62 overall, an undrafted rookie. He only got 17 reps last week, but he does go up +4 this week. He's starting to get used in that offense. If it sustains, he's obviously going to keep going up. And then another guy is the nose tackle, Xavier Williams. He's not even a full-time starter, but he's been earning more and more playing time and looking good when he gets in there. So he goes up +4 this week as well. And then Jared Valdir, who had been just totally diminished earlier as he really struggled, has definitely come back to earth a little bit. He goes up +3 and is yet again a guy that you're at least going to be able to start as a right tackle now in this roster, whereas it was looking like he might be on a total downslide in his career and potentially getting benched. But he has definitely figured it out, has been much better over the last 5 weeks. And then in Houston, a changing of the guard at safety as Marcus Gilchrist has retaken a starting job in the NFL as the safety opposite of Andre Howell. So he goes up +3, moving from free safety to strong safety now. And then two more guys here to talk about, both for the Ravens. Number one is going to be Willie Henry, who went up last week. I really was optimistic about this, just strictly because of the Michigan thing. I love that advantage that the Harbaughs have to say, yeah, take this guy. He's going to come in and grind. And despite some off-the-field issues that may have made him fall in the draft, he has stayed out of trouble and has been a huge impact on this defense that is emerging as a top 3 defense in the league. He goes up +2 this week. He went up last week. He started the year as like a 65 overall in the original roster. I had raised him a little bit coming into the year, but he is on a fast track towards becoming a true impact defensive lineman, right there with Brandon Williams. And then they've got Michael Pierce, who came out of nowhere, who's been an impact. The things that Baltimore's been able to do with this D-line, it's almost unfair. I mean, these guys are all low investment guys that have turned into, I'm not going to say superstars outside of maybe Brandon Williams, but true impact defensive linemen at a cheap cost. Really impressive what they're doing in Baltimore. And they have really been able to do the same thing with middle linebacker as well, Patrick Onwuasor, which he's not a Pokemon. You might think he is, but he's a real person. He's a linebacker for the Ravens. And he's been starting, essentially, and he's been playing real well. And I don't know what happened to Kameli Carrera, if he's hurt or just got beat out by Onwuasor, but regardless, Onwuasor is undersized, but he's been playing really good run defense, as has the rest of this Ravens team. So that does it for the risers. Now let's talk about the guys going down this week. No surprise here. First guy we got to talk about is Alex Smith, who I lowered 1 last week, tried not to overreact to a loss. Where would that have been? In New York. But then they lose to Buffalo this week, and Alex Smith has totally returned to earth. Now there's people calling for Pat Mahomes to start. That's not going to happen, not this year. Alex Smith has at least earned his stay for the rest of this year, but this Chiefs team has totally disappeared. And I think the Chargers just might win this division with the way the Chiefs are playing right now. We got 2 more fallers here on the defensive side of the ball for the Chiefs. Daniel Sorensen is kind of disappointed this year. He's a guy I thought was going to emerge, just not really doing a whole lot on this defense. So he goes down -3. I'd probably just had him a little high. And then Derek Johnson just has not been the same, especially in run defense. He used to be, leading the league in tackles every year, and it would show on film why, and it's just not the same. I think he's still instinctive, a really smart player, but probably just not the same burst or whatever, coming off pretty serious injury, and just hasn't really put it back together this year. He is 34 years old. So Johnson goes down 3, and then we already touched on the Patriots running backs, but I will come back here and just say Gillislee goes down 3. And I was never really buying the Mike Gillislee thing. And he goes down 3, loses a starting job, and that might honestly be too high. But we'll just leave that where it is for now. He's not a terrible player, but I do really like Dion Lewis and the fact that he has taken that job back. And then a guy that is falling this week that I think I need to talk about that I haven't really brought up on this channel a whole lot, and that's Vic Beasley. And there's mixed opinions on Vic Beasley. A lot of people love him because he is the flashy young guy who really emerged as a sack leader last year, but he has been nowhere to be found this year. And that doesn't surprise me, to be honest. I mean, I thought there was a chance he would take a step forward, but his strength comes down here. It was like an 82, which he has a defensive end. For Madden to give him that's pretty crazy because he doesn't bully guys. He is a pure speed rusher, and while he will have sack highlights, he is a very minimal impact on this defense. I think the lack of his development is a reason this Falcons defense has disappointed to this point. And to be honest, he's not even a full-time starter. He only plays, like 55-60% of the snaps here, mostly on 3rd down. So he comes down 2, and until he can become more of an impact in run defense or show more versatility as a pass rusher, I'm really not going to be a huge fan of Vic Beasley's game. And then the last guy here before we're all done here is Nick Martin, who actually showed flashes early but has really been terrible at center, as has the rest of this offensive line for Houston, the brother of the Zach Martin, the great guard for the Cowboys. So not having the same success in what is essentially his rookie year after missing his first year with an injury. So that does it for the update this week. Comment below players you think I'm overlooking, or just comments on what you think. If you like the moves I make, if you like my roster, blah, 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 let me know. Do like the video if you enjoyed. Cheers, everyone. We'll see you next week.